Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Keaty. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Welcome, everybody, to another great week on Empire Building Podcast. You have Tiffany and Seychelle with you today, and we are so excited to be with you in this hot week of August when everybody's going back to school in half the country and not in the other half of the country.
Those of us going back are very jealous of the other half. That is what I have to say.
But it is a busy season for everybody. It's a sweaty season for almost everybody as well. And so we wanted to spend some time this week talking about a important and kind of undiscussed topic about, is your business your identity? And identity is a word that a lot of people throw around in a lot of different ways. And we're going to talk about it today as, are you losing yourself, your definition of who you are and who you were created to be while you're growing your empire? And your instinct may be to just say, no, I probably would have said that. Like when I was growing my business, I don't think I would have said, oh, absolutely, I'm losing myself.
Oh, no. I think you're also so invested and excited about what you're building, you don't realize that it's taking over.
Yeah, I'm just having fun. I'm just loving this and doing what I love.
It's all consuming, but I'm in it. Yeah.
But when you think about it, entrepreneurs are programmed to create an identity that is their business, that their business is their identity. Like almost nobody walks up to a doctor in a party and says like, how many patients did you lose this month? Or, tell me your stats of how much your business has grown. Like that's not what you ask doctors. It's what you ask entrepreneurs. Like we're constantly being asked, how's business? Like, how's your revenue doing? Is your team growing? Like I got asked that so much when I was growing. They just wanted to hear about how much I was growing. And that creates the question being, what do you do? Quietly becomes, who are you?
I resonate with that so much. I mean, even to the point, like we're both in real estate, right? But we have other businesses as well. But even to the point that you will hear people say, I am a real estate agent, right? That is an identity statement instead of I'm in the real estate business or we have a real estate company, right? That is a very different description of someone's identity, even just in how you talk about it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that at the end. The I am statements are your identity statements. And so you need to make sure that you're watching what you say, I am this. But business owners, we receive identity reinforcement every day because when we do good, people tell us. When our business is up, they say, great job. You're rewarded for those things.
You're totally right. And I think this is such an important thing to realize, especially as your business is growing. If you can identify this sooner in your business, I know it took me a long time to discover this. I don't know about you, Tiffany, but I think both of us kind of got to a point in our business where, I'll speak for myself, I was inseparable from the business completely. So much so that I realized I had lost like a sense of hobbies. I had lost a sense of even just awareness of what to do with my time outside of the business when I wasn't spending time with my family, that there was this huge void that I really had to climb back up a mountain to get back to. And so part of the reason why I was really looking forward to having this conversation with Tiffany is we both have been on a journey to reclaim identity and to be clear about that and protective of it as we're going. And so I just want you to know, like, as we're talking about this, we're speaking from personal experience of years of missing this piece. And we want to save you from that sooner.
You're forced to identify that you have departed your identity or made your business your identity when it's departed so far from who you really are. And so I think
Yeah.
both of us were shoulding things in our business.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And once it got to the point where the business was our identity, but it was so far departed from our true identity and who we were created to be and how we wanted to show up in the world, we were forced to face it. And so this is to try to help you to get there and to build that business. Because we're not saying you don't build a big business. You build a business that is an assignment out of your identity. And so that's what we're going to jump into today. And I'm so excited.
Me too. So let's talk about part one of that, which is there is a psychology behind identity infusion. And when you think about what that means, it's our brains naturally attach identity to things we heavily invest in, right? If you think about it, the ingredients are for attaching to that. Our brains are like, wow, we're spending an enormous amount of time on this. There is emotional investment, right? We get excited when something goes really well, and we feel very disappointed when something doesn't go really well because we are very emotionally invested in the outcome. And oftentimes, if you think about that from an entrepreneur space, whether you pay your bills or not is tied to that outcome. So whether you think you're an emotional being or not, if you can't pay your bills next month because something in the business isn't working, there's emotion tied to that, right? So you can be a non-emotional being and still have an emotional attachment to the success of your business. Financial risk, right, is a big piece of that too. You have social recognition. And I know in the real estate space, we have awards and all sorts of things that we get accolades and told like you're the best in the business and you're the best in your city and the best in your state. And wow, you're so great. And that creates a constant feedback loop that's feeding your brain. And eventually your brain stops separating the I own a business or I am running and building a business to I am my business that Tiffany was talking about a minute ago, right? That I am statement. And once those two are fused, really everything changes because a bad quarter just doesn't feel disappointing. It feels like a personal failure. Losing an employee, and I know you and I both early in our careers when people would quit, it felt like such a rejection.
Yes.
Of my leadership, a rejection of who I am, a rejection of our vision and our growth, right? Like losing somebody felt so personal. And a bad review feels like it's an attack on your personal worth. And that is because your brain and your body and your energy has invested so much time into building this thing that it's very hard to separate your sense of self from the sense of business. And it's not a bad thing, but it's just really important for you to understand that that is actually what's happening.
Well, yeah. And so that's how your brain is working, is when you're giving all this time and energy and risk and it's being told this is important, this is like who you are. But think about it. Like in the beginning, the business really needs you. It really needs that from you.
It does. Yeah.
During the first few years, you're the salesperson, you're the marketer, you're the bookkeeper, you're the problem solver, you're the visionary, you're pouring
Everything.
all of who you are
Yeah.
into it. You don't have the money and the systems necessarily to delegate. And so your effort is often what keeps the business alive. And so it makes perfect sense that your brain gets super confused. So we're not saying you're doing something wrong when you're pouring in all of that time, energy, and effort, because some businesses require sacrifice. All businesses require sacrifice.
I think all businesses do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some
Any
point,
successful business.
yes,
Yep.
you have had to sacrifice for it. But the danger is not working to consciously keep the business as an assignment versus an identity.
Oh, that's so good.
And so that's what we want to encourage you on.
That is so good. So let's talk about some signs that maybe if any of these questions resonate with you, this may be a sign that you have lost yourself in your business or maybe are losing yourself in your business. So let's give you like a couple of maybe questions that you could think about. And if any of these resonate with you, it might be something to pay attention to here. Does your mood rise and fall with your sales? Do slow months make you question yourself? Do compliments about your work affect you more than compliments about your character?
That's such a good one.
Ooh, that one was like, ooh.
Yeah. Like if somebody tells me I'm kind, do I get as much of a dopamine high as if somebody says, like, you're the top producer for the month?
Yeah.
That one's tough.
I actually remember when we were going through the identity shift back to ourselves that someone in our office told me they beat me that month. And they were really excited to tell me that they beat us. And I had this I felt actually almost like a little bit of a jerk. So I was like, wow, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever watch the show Mad Men back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There is one scene from that where Don Draper is standing in the elevator and this young copywriter is just going after him and trying to basically be like, I'm going to get you and take you down and I'm going to beat you. And the copywriter's going after him. And Don Draper looks over at him and he goes, that's funny. I don't think about you at all. I just remember that moment where it was all of a sudden the power shifted where his identity had gone from being this, madman advertising person to going back to trying to find his identity. And he said it more in a zinging way, but I think about that sometimes as we're going back to finding ourselves, what do you think about, right? What gives you energy? Other questions would be if you lost your business tomorrow, would you know who you are? And that one hits especially for me. Tiffany and I both are 20 plus years in the business, and we have people that we have known in the business that are 10 and 20 years our senior in physical age that are exiting the business and really struggling with that question. Big time. If you can't answer how are you without talking about work, you feel guilty when you're not working. I think all of us could raise our hands at that one at one point in time. You no longer know what you enjoy outside of work. Your personal goals have disappeared from your calendar. Or maybe you resent how much the business needs you, but you also resist becoming less necessary. And I can tell you every single question I just asked, I have resonated with at one point in time.
Same. Yeah.
It is a yes to all of those at one point in time in my career. I have said yes to those.
I think I've probably been like this. You may be thinking right now, yeah, but what? So what? So what? My business is my identity. I love it. I love it. That question about what do you do outside of work? My hobby was starting businesses. For the entirety of my life, since I was 15, they weren't even called side hustles in the 90s, but I've had side hustles. I've had 3 or 4 different jobs at a time or different things I was doing and starting. And I mean, I had a knitting business. I've run the gamut of what we have done. And so I would have said, I have a hobby. It's starting businesses. But recognizing, okay, what's the cost? What's the cost when your business is your identity? So we'll ping pong back and forth, say, one of the costs is success becomes addictive. If your identity comes from achievement, it means you need another closing. To be happy, to be satisfied, to be good, you can never rest because it's the addiction of what's coming next. You need another award. You need another milestone. You need to hire another person. You need another $1 million of net worth. And that's what makes the finish line keep moving. So if your identity comes from achievement, success is addicting. And we all know addiction is not a good thing. So the addiction is the cost.
I think that's so true. I think another sign that there may be a cost coming to this is you may become hard to coach and you view feedback maybe isn't about behavior, but it feels like criticism of your identity. When someone's giving you feedback about your business or about your leadership or about, something going on in your business, it becomes a personal attack. And I know in my leadership journey, I definitely have had it where it doesn't work out with somebody and that felt like a personal attack. And a personal failure on my side. And yes, are there things you can always do better? 100% yes. I'm not saying don't ignore the feedback. But when that's keeping you up at night for 2 to 3 weeks and it's messing with your rhythm at home because you're distracted, because you're trying to problem solve and think for it, because you can't be present in other conversations, that's a sign there's a cost to your family, to your personal life, to your energy, to your sleep that's happening because you're so emotionally invested in that feedback.
Well, and I think the third cost really can eventually create a cost of growth. Like, I know for me, that was a ceiling of achievement in our business, was the fact that I was the business. And so the business couldn't grow beyond me. And not that I wasn't hiring people and that I wasn't like casting a vision and all of those things, but I was not acting like myself. I was trying to act like a successful business person acts. And what that does is you end up protecting the business production more than you're serving it. So like I stopped bringing Tiffany to the business and I just started doing what I thought I was supposed to do to get to 180 sales and get to 200 sales and get to whatever that number was. But maybe it looks like you won't hire people better than you, because if people know more than you, that says a lot about you if your identity is tied to it. Maybe you won't step out of production. I know there's a lot of people out there who they just don't want to hire because what if they go backwards when they hire somebody? If your business is tied to your production, and you're going to be terrified to take a step back, to take a leap forward, which leads you to not taking risks. You won't pivot when you need to. Maybe you won't even exit when you need to. In real estate, often we don't sell, but in other entrepreneurial businesses, there are many people still holding on to a business that they should have sold a long time ago, but they just couldn't because it was who they are too much.
How many times have you had a conversation with an entrepreneur that says, well, if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what I would do?
For sure.
Right?
Yes.
And I think you're right. That does hold back an exit or a sale or even a retirement or another opportunity. And then those become forced exits, which are even harder.
Yeah.
Can you think of a time when did commitment cross over into losing yourself for you? I think about, I was probably 8 or 9 years in, and I woke up one day and realized this is all I do. This is all I do. 11, 12 hours a day during working days. I was addicted to the business and the dopamine from another win, another win, another win. I don't know if you ever felt like that, but I felt like I just hit this point where it was my energy couldn't keep up. I'm sure part of it was having Quinn too as a baby. That'll really kick you in the pants. But yeah. That was all at the same time, and you realize, wow, this is not sustainable,
Yeah.
Long term.
I think for me, I was so committed to the business succeeding that I built a job for myself that was my worst nightmare. And I didn't even realize it until I was sitting there in an office all day long, cranking out work, which none of this is bad, but just for me, I need to be seeing new things and experiencing new things. And I'm a creative, and I abandoned all of that for the business. And that was the moment that I realized that my commitment to this business must succeed at a higher and a higher and a higher level meant I put aside myself and showed up in a way that was literally my word. I would never, when I realized it, I would never have let an employee do what I did. I would have sat them down and said, you are miserable. The business will be fine. I did that with an employee. We had an amazing buyer's agent who he wanted to go on the road with his family and travel in an RV and live this nomad life. And he came to me and he's like, I just don't want to leave the business. I feel like the business will be hurt if I leave. And he wasn't wrong, but I confidently said to him, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the business is going to be hurt. You need to go do this thing with your family. And 3 years later, when I was sitting in the office realizing I had not listened to myself, I'd allowed myself to do what I wouldn't allow somebody else in my business to do, that's when I knew I'd crossed a line.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a good example too of giving our team members the grace and the love that we really should be extending to ourselves as the business owner too, but we don't because there's no one above us to say that.
Yeah.
So you have to do it for yourself, or a really good therapist also can help you with that. But like someone, I think that's why I'm so thankful for like our circle of, friends and our founders with Her Best Life is we see that in each other and have started speaking that to each other, where 10 years ago when we started to get together with our retreats, we were not doing that yet. And I think we've all evolved to realizing there's so much more outside of that. So, if this is resonating for you at all, the hardest part of this then is how you move your business from being your identity to being an assignment, right? And when I say that, like, I want you to hear me, like the phrase, instead of saying, I am the business owner or I am a business owner, maybe it's, I've been entrusted with leading this business for this season. Okay. Like if you think about the way those are phrased, those are very different phrases. Assignments can change, but identity is much harder to change. It often doesn't change. And so when you think about that, businesses are born, businesses are sold, they fail, they succeed, industries disappear. I mean, think about how much is changing with the tech industry right now. That industries can come and go, right? But identity remains. And that is our hope for you, is that, so many leaders struggle because they make the mistake and they mistake a changing role for a changing identity. And if your identity is I'm the person who closes 150 deals, or I'm the person that, we both have said it before, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur and I'm the person that constantly starts companies. You'll fight for the very delegation your business needs. And if your identity is like, I'm someone who develops people and serves faithfully, you can release old roles without losing yourself because there's a new role that you can step into as well. But it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change your success or failure of your personal self.
And you can't just say, my work is not going to be my identity anymore. You have to replace it with a new identity.
That's really hard.
Oh, well, what we think is, I'm just going to stop that. I'm just going to stop having my business being my identity. That's impossible. You have to replace it with something else. And so when you know who you are and you knew who you were created to be, then identity is settled. And you may be thinking like, yeah, but how? Hold on, we're going to get to some exercises to help you. But when you get there and your identity is settled in who you are, you can lose a listing without losing yourself. I mean, you can still be critical of the experience and say, how could I have done better? But you're not going to beat yourself up and lose sleep over it. You can lose an employee without losing your confidence. You can take criticism without being defensive. Like Say mentioned, you can celebrate your competitors beating you.
Yeah. I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
You can rest. This is one of the biggest things, is you can put the business down for a day and come back to it. You can experiment and try things, and you can admit mistakes, and you can fire clients, and you can take long-term risks. And ironically, secure people often outperform insecure people because they make decisions from wisdom instead of fear. So that's the goal. We're going to find that thing that we're going to replace. I am a realtor. I am a business owner. We're going to replace that statement. So we have 3 practical exercises for you to start that exploration into your true identity. So you don't want to try to do these while you're in the car, but come back to this when you're sitting down in front of a piece of paper, and we've got 3 exercises for you to go through to help get to the beginning of that. But one thing I will say, this is not something that Say and I on our journey, it wasn't like I woke up that day in my office and said, this is the worst. And then the next day I knew who I was and how I wanted to go. This was years of work. So don't beat yourself up if you sit down with a piece of paper and nothing comes out the first time. So that's my preface.
It was a good, 2.5 years of wrestling and trying different things on too. I think was a big piece of that too, is, you don't just have to like arrive at the answer to these on day one, like Tiffany is saying. Like you can also wrestle with some things and try them on and rumble with them and see how they feel, which is kind of neat too. Especially if you feel like we both got to the point we were so lost in our business. We did have to wrestle with a bunch of different concepts and ideas to get back to who we felt like we were authentically meant to be. So the first exercise we're going to do is we're going to finish a sentence to start. So the sentence we want you to write down is, I matter because. I matter because. And we want you to write the first answer down. Okay? It could be, some of the ones that have happened to me when we've done this before are, I matter because I'm a great mom. I matter because I provide for my family. I matter because I lead 20 amazing humans. I matter because I'm involved in my kids' school, right? Whatever it is, I'm a good friend, right? So, like, are some things coming up for you, like revenue or like your business, or is it your role in your family or your reputation, and how you're number one in a market, or your performance, right? Oftentimes the I matter becomes, you'll feel whatever that initial identity is come out with that statement. And so what we want you to do is actually write down a few more sentences. So we're going to give you these, and we want you to complete these sentences without mentioning any of these things. You're going to complete these sentences without mentioning your title, your income, your family roles, or your accomplishments, okay? So we're not going to mention any of those things with these sentences. The first sentence you're going to write down is, I am someone who. I am someone who. The second one is, I care deeply about. I care deeply about. Then the last one you're going to do is, I feel most alive when. I feel most alive when. And without judgment, I want you to just write what comes to mind. This is a stream of consciousness exercise, and I don't want you to have any judgment or emotion tied to what comes out, but just write whatever comes. And I think you're going to be surprised with some of the things that come out. The first time we did the I am someone who, the first thing I remember I wrote down when we did that one, Tiffany, was, I am someone who takes care of everybody else. And then what was interesting was the next sentence that came out that I was really mad at myself for, but was really fair at the time, was I wrote down, I am somebody who takes care of everybody else. And then the next sentence I wrote down was, so when am I going to take care of me? And I remember that was a huge eye-opener for where my identity had become. And I realized that I was so far away from like the self-work I needed to do and the journey that I needed to go on, that even when I was someone who, I couldn't even put myself in that statement. It was somebody else. So I share that because that was a tough realization on my standpoint, but it was very permission giving for me to realize that I needed to work on this so that I could come back to the I am someone who, and it was about me and not everybody else.
So that's exercise 1. Exercise 2. Okay. And this is all work that compounds on itself, but you can do this in any order that you want to do it with. But exercise 2, I want you to imagine that your business disappeared tomorrow. And I want you to think about what parts of you still exist. And part of that exercise is, because the parts that are left, that's identity. It's not assignment. And these are the things you've always been. So in my exploration of this, I spent a lot of time thinking back through what are the things that have been true of me in childhood, in when I was unemployed, when I was making documentaries, like what are the things that have always been true? So like when you think back, what are the parts of you that have always existed? Maybe it's leader. Is it your leadership? Is it you're a creator? Is it your friendship that you give to others? Is it that you're a learner? I mean, none of these, I'm not saying you have to pick any of these, but these are just examples. Is it your deep care that has always been throughout your life? Is it your focus on service? Like, what is it? Because when I looked back, I could see that like my identity is experience creator. And I could look back and I could find, what did I do in childhood that wasn't for money and wasn't for any of those things? Because there were plenty of other little, I sold plants and blah, blah, blah. But like, what did I do that wasn't associated with production? I made plays and got the neighbors together to do plays, and then we would perform them for the parents. And so I like created all these experiences. And then when I looked back over like, why did I want to make documentaries? It's because I wanted to make people feel something and think differently about something through a feeling I created in them. When I looked back over like even how I chose to do my wedding, like the goal of my wedding was I wanted people to have the most fun they've ever had at a wedding.
That's so perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So like I had my reception at Dave & Buster's. It was so fun because I just wanted everybody to have fun. Not because I wanted to please them, but because that's the experience I wanted to create with a budget to celebrate our new life together. And so like this thing, I've always done it. And so recognizing, even when I started my real estate business, I did it through creating experiences for clients. And it was when I departed that it stopped being who I was. So that's what you're looking for in this. When your business went away and you don't think about business, what part of you still exists? What are you doing for free? Like Tim Keller had I read Every Good Endeavor, and he defined an activity pursued for joy, delight, growth, or beauty, rather than for income or productivity as a hobby. And I really struggled for anything that I did for joy, delight, growth, or beauty. But I've held that definition of, all right, I'm going to look back over my life and find when was I operating in pure joy, pure delight, growth, and beauty. So that's what you're looking for in this exercise.
That is fantastic. And I love that challenge. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take step 3. This is exercise 3. And what we are physically going to do with our words is separate our role from our identity. Okay. And so an example of that would be when you think about what you do for a living, right? Or what you do with your company and saying, I'm a CEO. I am the leader. I am the creator of our company, right? Like I'm the founder. Instead saying just a slight shift in words, I serve as CEO. I serve as our leader. I serve as our sales leader, whatever that is for you. It's a very small language shift, but it actually psychologically makes a massive difference.
So I know this is a very deep episode, and it's
you and I are good at this.
I know we really
like
are.
To go deep.
We like to go deep. So I hope that you'll take the time to really think about it, because here's the reality: your business is far too small. No matter how big it is, it's too small to carry the weight of your identity. It was never designed to tell you who you are. But when you know who you are, you'll build a business that's healthier, you'll be more courageous, and the business will be far more impactful because it no longer has to prove your worth. It can just be serving its purpose in the world. So that's what we want to leave you with this week. I hope that if this has spoken to you, please share it with somebody that you know, because going this alone is hard. Send this to somebody and say, hey, let's do this work together, because I want to build a big business and a big life, and do it with somebody else because it's much more fun.
It's way more fun. I totally agree. And I'm thankful I got to do this one with you today too, Tiffany. So go out there and build that big business and even bigger life. Thanks for joining, guys.
Have a great week.
Bye.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.